Welcome to the Local Business Show. Seth Green is a nationally recognized marketer who is the nation's foremost authority on growing local businesses through direct response marketing podcasts, and the only person to be nominated 3 times for the GKIC Dan Kennedy Marketer of the Year Award. Seth will be joined by a capable cohort of co-hosts who are each local business marketing experts in their own right. On the podcast, Seth and his co-hosts brings together small business owners and other local business authorities to share with you their inspiring stories of how they started their local business, how they serve their local business clients, how they grow their local business, and how you can too. And now, here's your host.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast recording. And today I've got a special guest. I've got Maggie Siebert from Sani Yoga, based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I hope I've got that introduction right, Maggie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Tim. You got
Excellent.
It all right.
So just tell me your full name. I know I've just said it, but I've said it correctly. I just want you to repeat that if you could.
Yes, that was correct. Maggie Siebert.
Maggie Siebert. Okay, so Maggie, tell me about you and tell me more importantly about your business and the people you serve.
Sure. So first of all, our business, Sani Yoga, is an affordable and accessible yoga studio. So we try to make it community oriented and we try to make it affordable. In other words, all classes start at a minimum fee of $5 and then go up to $20 sliding scale based on what the client can afford. And what we are trying to do there is to promote yoga that is not elitist. In other words, sometimes people can walk into a yoga studio and get a little bit turned off by either the cost of the class or the type of person that attends that yoga studio. So we're trying to diversify the type of person that comes. So this has to do with, how much your income level, the type of clothing you wear to yoga class can sometimes be a point of contention in the fancier yoga studios. How you look, can be a place where people get turned off. So we're trying to make it a diverse space, welcoming for all. And then myself, I came into yoga when I was in undergraduate school, and I was just looking for a class that was de-stressing, good for my health, and I discovered so much more in yoga. It offered me a place where I could sort of like a sanctuary. And because I was taking it at a college, it didn't feel exclusive. But then when I started to take classes at studios, I felt like I couldn't afford it anymore. And it was a place that I didn't belong or fit in. So I wanted to change that in the industry a little bit. And then I went on to study health-related fields in graduate school. So I have a master's in community health, and now I have a PhD in health communication. I'm actually working in epidemiology, trying to assist the New Mexico Department of Health in stopping the spread of COVID-19. So health to me is just a way of life, and it's something that I feel like all people deserve equality in their health outcomes. So this is just one way that I try to do that in my life.
Cool, fantastic. And look, we covered a lot there. Just tell me about the name, Sani Yoga. Where does that name originate from? Where does it come from? What inspired you to come up with that name?
So at first I had a business partner, and she actually named the space. And Sani Yoga, the term Shani comes from a deity in Hindu mythology. And Shani is representative of the planet Saturn. And Saturn is also representative of hard work, perseverance, dedication, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of challenge, because that is all embedded and inherent in the practice of yoga. It's not always easy. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not good at yoga. I can't, I'm not flexible. And it's not that. It's just that you haven't put in the time, the effort, the energy in order to help your body get better at the practice. So it's all about, that practice, that dedication, and knowing that step by step, you'll achieve great things.
Great. And what would you say is the main problem that you solve for your clients? Is it a physical thing or is it a mental thing?
Oh, definitely both. I like to think of at least how yoga achieves health is through balance, right? So it's not always going to be balancing the physical practice of strength and flexibility and achieving perfection in a posture, or even just achieving, less low back pain. But it's also, yeah, your mental status, like how stressed out you are when you come to the mat, your anxiety. Various breathing practices can help people. Meditation can help people with their mind and achieving balance there. But it's also emotions. People's are, we're emotional beings. We fluctuate on the spectrum of being irritated and angry or frustrated to being overwhelmed and sad, or, we experience a lot of things in our lifetime and moment by moment. And I think that yoga helps us to understand that everything is passing. It's not going to be a constant, and that through the practice, we can achieve that sense of balance and equanimity, harmony, peacefulness.
Sure. Okay. So, and tell me about the area that you cover and how has that changed, right? So, where your studio based, is your studio even open these days? And how has that notion of serving a local community changed in recent times?
Sure. So when we first began, we were in the university area in a very small, like one room house, actually. So it was the front room of a house. It felt very homey and very inviting. And we were there for a few years, and we were functioning more as a yoga collective. So instructors would come in and they would just teach their class and they would take their payment and go. And since then, we've moved downtown, we've expanded, we're a larger space. We try to stay pretty close to as many people as possible. So we are in an urban dense area. Downtown in Albuquerque can be a little bit sketchy, but we kind of enjoy that sort of feeling that anything can happen anytime. And so, yeah, the clientele that we serve has shifted maybe a little bit away from university students to more diverse Albuquerque residents. And yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar at all with New Mexico, but we do have a very unique population. So we have a large amount of Native Americans, Hispanic individuals, in fact, more so than other areas where you might see a predominance of, say, white individuals. That's not the case in Albuquerque. So we're
Okay.
trying as much as possible to serve that diverse population.
Sure. And tell me about what typically is your ideal client, in terms of their age profile, their gender. But remember, this is content that we'll be putting online. Who are we speaking to? Who are we reaching out to?
Yeah. So I'd say I'm not trying to specify a certain type because we want it to be as diverse as possible. We do want our clients to be around individuals that don't look like themselves. So we do want actually a range of ages. Sometimes older individuals don't come to yoga, but we want to encourage that. Sometimes we even invite, as long as there is an adult with them, we'll invite, younger individuals, because we want people to be around, to feel more like a family and less like only able-bodied young people coming to classes. And also, yeah, we want people to see regular people in classes, so not just beautiful people that are super fit and well manicured and well put together. We want people to see the true representation of what humans look like. And I'd say, yeah, we're not aiming to target any specific audience for that reason. We really want it to be as diverse as possible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, you do all sorts of shapes, sizes, and levels, I suppose, beginners up to expert. So do you vary the types of yoga you're teaching to them? Is there different type, or is there a particular standard or general that you start with?
Yeah, so we do recommend that people attend the fundamentals classes first if they don't really have a broad basis in the practice of yoga, because that helps. It's a little bit slower. There's more explanation. The instructor is watching everyone very carefully to make sure that they're not going to get hurt and that, you know, not that there's a specific correct way to do everything in yoga. There are some strategies that one can employ to help them feel better in the practice. So there's that level. Then there are all levels classes where, you could be a beginner, but you could also be more of an expert. They go a little bit faster. They're a little bit more complicated in the poses that are offered. And we do offer advanced, but we're not currently offering that class just because we have a smaller schedule due to the pandemic, and we're slowly adding back classes like that. And then we offer other classes like breathing and meditation, yoga lattes, which is a fusion of yoga and Pilates. We offer sort of different types of yoga too, like some are flow based, some are more hatha styled. So we try to offer a reasonable amount of different types so that people can plug into the ones that they like best.
Sure. Okay. Did you mention how long you've been in business?
Well, that's a little bit confusing because when we first opened and we were more of a community-based center, that was for about 3 years. But then we became an official business when we moved downtown. So we've been open an additional 4 years since then.
Now, you mentioned actually on your pricing, I think, and I think that is your keen pricing. It sets you apart, I think, from the competition. Is that the main thing that you would see yourself as a USP for you guys that separates? Why would people choose Shannon Yoga over other yoga classes?
Sure, I think that is definitely a draw. I would also say, though, that people really do feel welcome in this space and feel like they belong there. We make an effort to know everybody's names. It is pretty small, so it feels community oriented. So we really try to encourage that feeling of belongingness and being welcome. So I think that really sets us apart as well. Whereas some fitness classes, you just go into, you do the thing and you leave, and there's not really a lot of community-centered approaches.
Now, look, yoga is clearly a passion that you have, and it's part of your. At what point did the passion start and end, and when did the business aspect of it come into it? Is that an ongoing thing? Is it all intertwined? How does that work?
Yeah, it's all intertwined. I would also say that I didn't set out on my path desiring to own a yoga studio. That was not ever a goal of mine. It just sort of happened to come about when the person who started Sani Yoga went and moved to another country. They just kind of passed me the keys and said,
Sure.
You do it. And I said, sure. That sounds probably like something I should do at this stage in my life, and just everything building to this point. And it has been a wonderful occupation for me. Of course, it's not all that I do. And because we are community-based and community-oriented, we're not profit-centered. So the point of the business is not necessarily to be something that I live off of, or even that, but it should be something that supports the instructors, right? So that they earn enough that they can live off of when they teach classes. So yeah, I hope that answered that question.
Well, you spoke about you've got a number of instructors there. How many instructors have you got in total? Because I know it's not you. Who else are we looking at when we talk about the instructors and the individuals, and what do they bring to the table?
So I'd say it does fluctuate. We have anywhere from like 10 to 12 other instructors. They might teach one class, they might teach several. And we do have a teacher training program where we train other instructors to teach yoga. So we often will try to encourage them to also teach at the studio after they've finished. And I think that gives them a platform on which to build what they do and to develop as an instructor. And I always like to offer that to all of them, because if they want to further their career goal as an instructor in yoga.
Sure. Well, that sounds like something that you could take more online as well, is it? I mean, how much of your business, I imagine it was all, a local sort of bricks and mortar business before, and how much of it with the pandemic has moved online, and do you see yourself going more in that direction?
Yeah, that's a good question. So During the pandemic, at its peak and at its height, we were completely 100% online. All of the classes were taught through Zoom. People could tune in from their living rooms. We definitely lost some business at that moment, but we also gained some. So we have people now tuning in from all over. We had people, I think the furthest people tuned in from was maybe London. So, but now I have a regular student in Vermont, which is wonderful. So what we are going to do now that we're moving back to the studio is retain some classes that are 100% online, but most of our classes will be hybrid. So you can join either in the studio or online. And that's been awesome too, because I have a couple of students that just can't make the time slot, but they really want to participate. So it gives them an option and an alternative to actually tune in and participate. And as far as the teacher training program, we are taking strides to make that an online program. The Yoga Alliance, which is the certifying board for instructors, is going to allow, at least for now, online instruction to be a way in which instruction can be done. And so with that, yeah, that is going to offer us a new platform for reaching new students in other places. It could even be something that we could sell as a package. We're not really sure yet what direction we want to move with it, if we want it to be sort of a live program or if we want it to be live, synchronous and asynchronous. So sometimes people can do a module on their own, write it up, whatever the assignment would be, and then that would be complete, but then they'd be required to attend some synchronous real-time lessons in which we would evaluate, their teaching style or whatever it was we were looking at that week.
It is a difference now. The mindset has changed so much over the last 18 months because we've talked about businesses going more and more online, and they were suddenly thrust into this. But I know even in my own house, my wife does yoga, and it's all on Zoom now. She does it, and it took a bit of getting used to, I suppose, but she does it now all the time. So surely your market has, yes, it's changed, but it's just, it's any way you want it to be now. I suppose there is a huge opportunity now for you to try different things. But was that an issue for people? I mean, getting them on Zoom, even knowing how Zoom works. I know it was challenging for most businesses, but how have you found that with your clients?
Sure. Yeah, I think at first there was hesitancy to overcome from the client arena and from the instructors. Some instructors, they didn't really want to do that, and that was fine. But for me, and especially as someone who's trying to run a business, there's always opportunity, right? So you have to look at things not as a challenge, but as an opportunity. How will this be useful for me down the road to adapt to this new, changing, evolving climate that we don't know into the future, where how this will change how we interact, how we conduct business. So to me, it's been an added bonus to switch or to add online instruction.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. And I even had instructors come back. I had instructors that were teaching from Mexico City, instructors that were teaching from Montana. So it was nice to have old faces and old instructors come back who had moved away.
The world's your oyster. And tell me, how do is it all word of mouth? How do you typically promote your businesses and your classes? Is it done through word of mouth, and how does that work?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of word of mouth as far as, in the local area. But we do have a relatively active social media presence. And that, I would say, is our greatest form of advertising and marketing, because we tend to reach all clients from, our inception to current. And that seems to be a place and a platform that we reach the most amount of people. I tend to shy away from newsletters. I personally don't read anything like that and find them a little bit not helpful or not useful.
Yeah.
I know it does remind the client, that you're there and you're still operative and trying to engage in the community and trying to give them your services. But for me, too much.
And what about retention? Do you find, what's your turnover like with clients? I mean, is it a constant turnover, or do they typically stay with you for a certain time span for a series of classes, or do you get clients who just stick with you and just religiously are ongoing?
We have a hugely committed clientele. I mean, of course, there's going to be those people where they take a class, decide it's not for them, and drop off the map. But on a whole, it's people that you know their name, you know which class they go to, you know even what part of their body bothers them and why they're there.
Okay, and tell me about, is there any groups that you partner with or work with, or do you do discounts from, well, at $5 a class, I can't imagine you do, but do you work with community groups at all?
Yeah, we do actually. So we've had different businesses who have used us as an employee wellness program. So we work with Vinaigrette and Sister here in town. All of their employees can come and take a class at no cost to them. And then I bill those people later. We've also worked with a community organization that assists individuals who are in some form of recovery. So those individuals could also come to our studio and take a class for free. And again, we would just bill the client at a later date. And then let's see, we've had some other throughout the years, but those are our most recent collaborations with either businesses or nonprofits.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about Albuquerque, New Mexico. Are you from there yourself? Tell me about your own background. Are you married, your kids, and how does that mix and how does that work?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I was born in Columbia, South Carolina, but I did come here for undergraduate through my PhD. So I've been here longer, I've lived here longer than I lived in South Carolina, in other words. So I consider myself fully transplanted. And then, yeah, as far as family, I've got 2 goats, a dog, 2 cats, and about 30 chickens, and a boyfriend.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, we got a large family, but no children.
Okay, fantastic. And look, do you see yourself, how do you see the business going forward in terms of it? Do you see it growing or is it something that you'll maintain? Do you see, in terms of the commitment, do you see expansion plans with online growth or how do you see it?
Well, right now we just want to weather the storm. We did not pay a bulk of our rent throughout the pandemic, so now we're having to sort of pay double. So we just want to make it through the rest of the year. And presuming that occurs, then we will probably not be expanding anytime soon. We just want to reach that same level of sustainability.
No, that's fantastic. And look, I want to thank you. It's great to have you on as a local business hero. We want to promote local business heroes and look for as much support from your community as possible in these challenging times. But there's no doubt you're doing a great job. We would love to see you continue that going on in the future. And Maggie, thank you very much from Shannon Yoga. Just call out your website or how do people get in touch with you guys to
Sure.
book classes?
Sure. So it is shaniyoga.com. That is only spelled SANI yoga.com. Our email is just info@shaniyoga.com, and that's probably the best way to get in touch. And if you want to follow us, we are on Facebook and Instagram.
That's fantastic. Maggie Siebert, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Sure. Thanks, Tim.